When I think of the items that have evolved throughout the progress of my account, one of the main ones that sticks out to me is the graceful outfit. Every account will eventually need a graceful outfit to beat the frustrations of running around in the world. But the more you run, the more you unlock, the more cosmetic variety you get. I'll never forget my days noobing with the base outfit, my slightly less newbie days with my green outfit, and eventually manning up and beating some of the sepulcher to get my black recolor, and even going back and getting the blue part so I can have a black and blue combo that was just kind of my thing. And even though I did just get that maybe 6 months ago, they're releasing for the first time since I started playing a new graceful outfit. And I want this next graceful outfit to be another step in the evolution of my account. And that's why I will be the first to obtain the Adventurer's Graceful. And this is my story. It all started November 8th.
Wait, didn't Quest Speedrunning come out October 12th? Shouldn't you only need to be the first to complete one of the 2 new quests and just be done?
Yeah, I mean, that would have been a good plan for a person who had this goal in mind, but that wasn't really the case for me. If you looked at the rewards on October 12th the same way I did, you just looked at it on the wiki, saw you couldn't get the graceful outfit, and then went back to playing Bowser's Big Bean Burrito. But with me finally coming out of my raiding coma and looking at the dates, I realized that the next set of speedrunning quests would release tomorrow, November 9th. If you want to be the world's first and do it all in less than 24 hours, you have to be getting the highest reward completions, not only on the 5 quests that are out, but on one of the 2 quests that come out tomorrow. And so, I began. I decided to start out with Cook's Assistant just to get into the swing of things, and after watching a string of awesome guides online, I was able to knock out Cook's Assistant on my first try. I felt ecstatic. Less than 2 minutes into this thing, and I was already 20% of the way prepped for release. I continued on to Ernest the Chicken, and although there were some hiccups in getting the order of things correct and getting used to doing quests I hadn't done in years in such a fast manner, I was able to complete it in my 3rd attempt. Mostly because they nerfed the time since they released it, but hey, that's one less thing to worry about. 40% of the way to being able to take on the real challenge, and it's great that things were panning out so far. The month of waiting for a meta to develop here really paid off with these quests, and because of that, we're going to be able to make our way to the true task for preparation. Something I have deemed the Slayer's Crucible of Vampire Slayer, Demon Slayer, and finally, Dragon Slayer. I decided to take on Vampire Slayer first, and it was a turning point into what I suspected. My first glimpse into true speedrunning in RuneScape. Anybody who's done speedrunning before knows that a lot of what makes up a good run is not only knowledge and being able to perform good tricks, but also getting very good luck. And so, we're gonna be tested a little bit. The Iron Man-esque knowledge of what nearby teleports and beneficial items are essential to being able to complete these upcoming quests. And Vampire Slayer, fortunately, is just a little bit of flavoring into that, as it gives you a nice taste of having to go and get the Chronicle since you're spawning in Draenor Village, which isn't really a choice and more of a nudge nudge wink wink, better get those teleport cards in the book fast before Mr. TikTok comes and ends your... Oh, and by the way, if you want that platinum ranking, you better be prepared to face a shit ton of RNG on Count Draenor. Count Draenor only decided to hold me back a few times, so on my 5th attempt, I was able to complete Vampire Slayer and move on to Demon Slayer. Can we admit that Silverlight and eventually Arclight are cool weapons? Awesome. Now that that's taken care of, this quest sucks for speedrunning. Let's walk through the route a little bit, shall we? At the start of every run, you have to write down the unique code to be able to kill the demon at the end, which is cool on a normal account, but man, it really gets repetitive here. Getting the keys are pretty much just the expected questing experience. Using teleports that require big knowledge to do without a guide are a given for speedrunning. But what the hell, man? It wants me to get 25 bones, so I'll go get the bones. But how come every time I'm prepared to do the world hopping meta that is required for this platinum, the filters that I have for the worlds are not set anymore, so I have to remember to do that every run? You have to remember, otherwise it's a dead run. But let's say you got the bones. You remembered to turn your left click attack off so that you wouldn't hit the mice, and you remembered to change it back after that. What else is in store for you? Well, after remembering to do some micro efficiency walking and talking on the way to finally getting Silverlight, you have to
kill the demon.
And you want to know what fighting the demon is like? let me just get in here and oh. No wait. Let me. Oh, I'm on pace. I got this. Okay, everything's fine. Everything.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Listen, it's speedrunning. I get it. We're here for challenges that should have a requirement to play exceptionally well and also have good RNG to back you up. But can I fucking knock this guy down more than once every 10 runs? The irking feelings it gives me of spending 8 minutes getting all the way to the fucking demon and not being able to do anything because this guy over here that failed out of fucking Mr. Mordout's classroom has to take it out on you. But finally, after exceptional luck, after 4 hours and 27 failed runs, it was done. And we're only 80% of the way to the real challenge. The final quest before bracing for the update, and of course the hardest of them all, Dragon Slayer. A quest that if you told me 3 months ago that I'd be able to complete it in under 30 minutes, I would just straight up call you a liar. But here we are, where a 30-minute run is absolutely terrible, and you actually need a 19-minute run to have a platinum here, and even having a chance at making history after. But how bullshit is our ultimate challenge? Well, starting off, the majority of this speedrun, honestly, isn't all that bad. It's more of a true speedrun, where it's all up to skill and your ability to remember what to do and play efficiently that makes up the majority of Dragon Slayer. But the real menace here is the RNG. You fight a lot to make your way to Elvarg, and as a result of that, there's a lot of room open for Oziak to remove your RNG for talking to him during this quest. And a lot to learn on the way since there's such a long run compared to all the other quests I've done so far. And a lot you can forget as well. I seriously had a big, bold, and colored notepad open on a second screen to help memorize this one. And yeah, if you want that platinum, you are going to memorize this one. And there are times where one accidental click is also a run killer. Like me clicking on the exit door. Wrong teleports instead of attacks, you get it. And that's not even mentioning the dragon that we're supposed to be slaying. So you somehow stumbled into Elvarg's lair through 16 minutes of the most perfect questing you've ever done in your life. Well, boys, here's some real excitement.
Loser! 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 Loser!
But what if the stars aligned? What if you kill Elvarg with time to spare? Well, good news. I hope you had an entire minute left, because that's pretty much how long it takes, because you need to get all the way back to Edgeville from Falador. But finally, after 7 grueling hours of attempts on Dragon Slayer, it was finally time to square up for the real challenge. I needed to get just 1 platinum from one of the 2 quests and swap over to the main game in Varrock to be able to be the first to purchase the Graceful set. The 2 quests were Prince Ali Rescue and Beneath Cursed Sands, which Prince Ali Rescue is definitely the shorter of the 2. Another positive is quests will be in beta up until the moment they launch, meaning that there is time to get practice in. However, there is a problem. The update comes out at 6:30 my local time, which if you do the math a little bit, means for me it's 2 a.m. and I still need to get sleep. The other thing about these quests is that the meta is not necessarily set in stone. There is a loose guide on the wiki to help you out, but that's just about it. I'm not the best RuneScape player. I'm not even a good speedrunner, but I was able to optimize what's on the wiki. And so I decided to just run it until 2:30. I felt out the locations where to run to, from the castle to the general store to Varrock, etc, etc. And after some pretty bad runs, I decided I really needed to get this sleep in. I slept for as long as I could and then began the grind. And this time, the world around me seemed a little distorted. The silence of the outside world and the emptiness of the in-game world as well made it an eerily peaceful experience. Immediately, the 2 hours of sleep were making a difference in the route. On my first run, after sleeping, I was only 8 seconds away from obtaining the platinum, meaning that with these extra 110 minutes, I could get about 10 more full practice runs to be able to master running the platinum at most. I worried about failure, but I was too far invested at this point, and there is no turning back. And since this quest wasn't nearly as difficult as any of the other Slayer quests before it, I decided it was just better to just restart runs over the smallest errors to squeeze in as much as I can out of this training time. It was all truly a race against the clock. Until it was looking incredible. A run that not only beat the 11-minute platinum requirement, but beat it by a large margin. Seeing the results here really reignited my hope of actually doing it, but I couldn't just get complacent with just being able to nail it once. I decided to focus on the biggest issues I had for this quest, which was acquiring ashes. The best way to do so is to chop a tree and burn the logs when you're running back to the desert, so that by the time you run back through Lumbridge Swamp, it would be ashes. And this time really helped figure that out, because the window between being a fire, being ashes, and completely disappearing is a little bit tricky. And before I knew it, it was time. The update was upon us. Not a soul was on the servers yet. It was my time to strike. I was immediately the first person to load this quest up, and so I began running my route. Just when I thought I could finally coast using my gained knowledge, two things were immediately noticeable. Firstly, all of the doors were closed everywhere, meaning a platinum would be much harder on this first run. And secondly, the timing on producing ashes from a log? Yeah, they definitely changed that with this update without mentioning a single thing. So, unfortunately, about 7 to 8 minutes in, I had to restart and do a second run to see people actually standing at the starting line this time. I was worried now. I thought I had ruined my opportunity already, but with actual sleep in hindsight, I really shouldn't have been. There was no way that these other people had the knowledge of these changes and have even had their doors open yet because they're instanced. It was dizzying. The sleep deprivation was catching up. It was all up to sheer willpower now, and hoping that placing the fire inside of Lumbridge Castle would be the perfect spot to obtain my ash on the way back from the desert. And it was. And so I ran like that snail was still chasing me over a month later, through every tick skip and optimal pathing my brain could do at this time. Finally, Prince Ali was rescued with a little less than 2 minutes to spare now, and all I had to do was run back to the desert one more time and complete the quest, only to find out on arrival that this run stopped my earlier record at 10 minutes 25 seconds. And after that, I checked the world record to find out that everything looked great. I was in a hurry, so I tick perfect swapped over to the real world. I had done it. I became the first to obtain the Adventurer's Graceful.
Yeah, that's a great story and everything, but what does this have to do with me?
Oh yeah, well...
Woo! I did it! I got the world record on Prince Ali Rescue and came here to be the first to...
Oh, sorry, man. You're just a little bit behind. And, yeah, I became the first person to live and die with the Adventurer's Graceful.
Got him! I was worried you were going nowhere with this the entire time.
Well, even if I did, you'd still just hang out with me, right?
Just get out of my office.